Today, we're going to answer the question, can I contribute to a Roth IRA and a 401k? Well, the short answer is it depends. So to really answer this question, we need to take a look at a few numbers: the contribution limits, the income limits, and even if we're over these thresholds, we could still look at some alternative strategies to still get money into our Roth IRA. So let's start at the beginning and talk about the 401k contribution limits. Now, it doesn't matter if you have a workplace plan that's a 401k or if you have a solo 401k, these limits are going to be the same. So with the 401k, the first number that we're going to take a look at is the employee deferral. For 2022, that's $20,500. Then there are total contribution limits of $61,000. So what this means is that if you put in $20,500 as an employee deferral, either the matching contribution or the profit sharing contribution could not exceed $61,000. So that means $61,000 minus what you've already put into the plan, if you maxed it out on the employee side, would be $40,500. And if you're 50 or older, then you can do an additional $6,500, which is called a catch-up contribution. So it'd be $61,000 plus the additional $6,500. That is the maximum amount that you can put into a 401k or a solo 401k. On the Roth side for 2022, the maximum contribution is going to be $6,000, and that is the Roth IRA. So those are the contribution limits. Now let's take a look at the income limits. And then I'm going to bring this all together so you can see why these two numbers or these two sets of numbers are so important to understand. And here are the Roth IRA income limits. And there are no income limits to the 401k or the solo 401k. For 2022, depending on your filing status, if you're single or head of household, the income phase out begins at $129,000 and ends at $144,000. And for married filing jointly, that goes from $204,000 to $214,000. So what this means is that if your modified adjusted gross income, if you're filing as single or head of household, is under $129,000, then you can contribute up to $6,000 into your Roth IRA. But it's a reduced amount if it's from $129,000 to $144,000 and completely phased out, meaning you cannot make a contribution to your Roth IRA directly if it's over $144,000, again, as single or head of household. And this is modified adjusted gross income. And you might be wondering what that is. There's a worksheet on IRS publication 590A, and that takes your adjusted gross income and adds a few things back. Here's the worksheet for it, but it's going to add back things like your traditional IRA contributions or your student loan interest or any foreign earned income exclusions. That's what's going to get adjusted with your modified adjusted gross income. So let me explain a little bit further on how that phase out works with these numbers. So I'm going to rewrite them up here. So if you're single or head of household, I'm just going to write single up here. And that went from $129,000 to $144,000. And then for married filing jointly, that went from $204,000 to $214,000. So for example, let's say that we're filing as married filing jointly and our modified adjusted gross income is $209,000. What this means is that we can only do 50% of this $6,000. Why is that? 209 lands right in the middle of 204 to 214, and that's 50%. So therefore, we can do $3,000 directly into the Roth IRA. But this doesn't mean that we can't get $6,000 total into a Roth IRA. We just can't do it directly. So here's how that works, and that is the backdoor Roth strategy. Now, even if you're familiar with it, pay attention here because I'm going to point out some very important parts to this that you need to be aware of. So with the IRA and your Roth IRA, so I'm going to write those up here. We're going to make an after-tax contribution, just like we would into our Roth IRA, but we're going to do that after-tax contribution into our traditional IRA, also known as a non-deductible contribution. It's a non-deductible contribution, not a non-deductible IRA. So it's just the contribution. So it's the same IRA, traditional IRA, just an after-tax contribution. Now, what we'll do here is we'll do the conversion and get it into our Roth IRA. That's how you could do it, is if you're over those income thresholds. However, you need to be aware of what's called the Pro-Rata Rule. And that simply says that we need to take an equal ratio of the pre-tax dollars that are in our traditional IRA and an equal ratio of pre-tax to those after-tax dollars. So what happens in the conversion is you can't cherry pick. You can't just decide that I'm going to take that $3,000 or $6,000, whatever you make as a non-deductible contribution, and then convert just those dollars. You have to include all your IRAs, SEPs, Simples, and traditional IRAs into this calculation. Now, this calculation gets done on 12/31, December 31st. So it's after the taxable year is when you do this calculation. So that is really important to understand, because if you're doing this, say, midway through the year and you're saying, well, I don't have any traditional IRAs, SEP, Simples, so I'll just do this after-tax contribution and then convert. Then let's later fast forward and make that decision of, oh, I have an old 401k, I'll just roll it into a traditional IRA. Well, that doesn't matter because the calculation is done on 12/31. So even though you completed the backdoor Roth strategy, but later made a contribution or a rollover into your traditional IRA, that will still count for the pro-rata rule. And that means a portion of those dollars are now taxable. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. You just need to be aware of it for those unintended tax consequences. Maybe you put your income a little too high and disqualifies you for certain credits or other deductions. That is what you want to pay attention to when you're doing these conversions. And if you're not affected by that, paying a little tax just to get into the Roth IRA might not be a bad thing, but again, you just need to be aware of it. Now, there's another way that you can actually avoid the pro-rata rule, and that is taking the money that's in the traditional IRA, those pre-tax dollars, and then rolling those into your 401k or your solo 401k. Now, here's my 2 cents on that. If you have a workplace plan, I probably wouldn't do it. The reason being is workplace plans are limited to a certain set of mutual funds or ETFs, but if you have a solo 401k, I would do that all day long. And in fact, I do that quite often for my personal accounts, where I'll take the money out of my traditional IRAs and I would put it into my solo 401k. The reason I do that is because in a solo 401k, I can invest in all the same securities that I could in a traditional or a Roth IRA. So I have that flexibility in doing so. So if you have access to a solo 401k, that could be a good strategy to avoid the pro-rata rule. However, again, if I had a workplace plan, limited funds, then I might not do it. And I say I might not because it really depends on your particular situation and whether or not the funds that you have in your workplace plan really are the ones that you want to invest in. So if they are, then by all means, that would be a strategy that you can use. And again, even if you're paying the tax on the conversion, not necessarily a bad thing. You just want to be aware of it. That's it. And one last tip with the 401k, every dollar that you put into the traditional side of your 401k is going to reduce your modified adjusted gross income versus saying putting it into the Roth side of your 401k. So you want to do a little bit of planning ahead, especially if you're close or at these thresholds or over these thresholds, and you want to reduce your modified adjusted gross income. Putting more money into the traditional side of your 401k could do it for you. So just pay attention to that as well. So to sum it all up, can you get money into your 401k and your Roth IRA? Yes, there is a way to get it in. You just need to make sure that you're paying attention to the contribution limits and those income limits. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and we'll see you on the next one.